Hey citizens, this is Jim with JP Reacts. We come to see a former candidate teach you how to think like a politician. And so you can figure out what politicians mean by what they say and what they don't say. Well, today we're going to be talking about immigration reform and specifically a little bit more about what's going on with immigration currently. So if you're into that, stay tuned after this. Okay, so we're going to jump in to this video basically talking about immigration and what's going on the border. Basically, this is a Republican congressman that is blaming President Biden for some issues in immigration. So let's hear what he has to say.
As a practical matter, we have no southern border at the moment because the President of the United States has directed our law enforcement agencies not to faithfully execute the laws.
So let's stop him right there. What is he talking about? Basically, the situation at the southern border got out of control under President Trump. They were separating families. They were taking kids away from their parents. They lost track of these kids. All this stuff is not what makes our country great. And basically, President Biden has been working to clean that up and really make it so that the process can go smoother. It's not going to happen overnight, but there needs to be significant progress made in this area to really reshape the way that our immigration system has been working, especially at the southern border. There has always been immigrants that have come across in an illegal fashion, but it's not any more or less than it's ever been. So basically, we're just trying to figure out what's the best way to process the backlog, and also how do we prevent, as much as we can, people from traveling here illegally. There's always going to be asylum seekers and people that are trying to make a better life for themselves, and they don't always have the opportunity or the knowledge about how to go through with a legal immigration process. So we need to take that into account as well.
I think that raises a lot of questions I'd like to pose to Joe Biden if he'd ever answer any questions, but it'll do to submit them to any Democrat supporting these policies. How are American workers helped by flooding the labor market with another wave of illegal immigration?
So basically, he's claiming, like so many always do, that illegal immigration hurts workers. The reason these people come to the United States outside of just safety reasons and looking for a better life is there's jobs here that Americans won't do. There was a crackdown back at the end of President Obama's term in some states, and what resulted was not that a bunch of Americans took those jobs. What resulted was that food died in the fields. It was never harvested, and that was because of a lack of workers that are willing to work for the wages. Now, you could say that maybe they should improve the working conditions and more Americans would work there. I would agree with that. But there has been also resistance from the Republican Party on actually improving working conditions. So you can't have it both ways. And for the most part, the best way to crack down on illegal immigration and workers stealing jobs is to crack down on the employers, not the immigrants. The employers are what are drawing people here, and they're the spot where if there's a problem, that needs to be fixed with them.
How are our children, who've been robbed of an entire year of their educations, helped by filling their classrooms with non-English speaking students?
There's always going to be non-English speaking students. There always has been, and most public education and most public school systems are already well equipped to handle students that need ESL classes. This is not something that's new or that we really need to worry about.
Are streets made safer by allowing aliens who drive drunk to remain on our roads rather than being deported?
So drunk driving is a problem for everybody, and it's not just for illegal immigrants. More people that drive drunk are legally here and legally licensed. So that's a ridiculous statement just to throw out at undocumented workers. as they're the reason why there are drunk drivers on the streets. That's fairly a ridiculous statement. Now we'll continue to listen to this. There are nuances to all these positions, but when you hear politicians just throw out these blanket attacks, they're not looking for a nuanced position. They're just looking to raise your anxiety, your anger, and redirect your anger at the problems of the country, not at where the actual problems lie, which is often the employers, but with these poor people that have nowhere else to go and are really just looking to better their lives.
How are our communities made safer? By making it harder to deport criminal illegal aliens and gang members. How?
Nobody's making it harder to deport criminals or gang members. The vast majority, is a very small percentage of the people coming across that are actual gang members. It always comes across when there's an election time coming around. That for President Trump, it was MS-13. And then there's always another group that's coming across, these caravans that mysteriously showed up and then disappeared after the 2018 midterm elections. These are all scare tactics, and there's no real policy intent here other than essentially racism and driving and xenophobia to drive people to hate people from other parts of the world.
How are our hospitals made more accessible by overwhelming emergency rooms with illegal immigrants demanding care? Why would the Democrats pursue policies that strike most acutely and painfully at working Americans? When we stop the flow of illegal...
Again, there's no truth to the matter that illegal immigrants, undocumented workers take American jobs. And these flooding of the hospitals, this doesn't happen. So basically, put yourself in the shoes of somebody that's undocumented. You're not going to put your name in there to have somebody look into your situation, right? You don't want to draw attention to yourself. So you're not going to be going to the hospital unless it's a dire, dire emergency. You're not going to be raising a fuss about working conditions. You're not going to be asking for government assistance, because if you got to ask government assistance, they're going to know you're not here legally, so then you'll get a better chance of being deported. Most concerns raised by this type of thing aren't based in reality at all. The problem is that we don't want to address the real issues that are associated with this, that are causing this, and that's why immigrants continue to come here not in the legal fashion.
Low-wage labor, American workers saw their biggest wage gains in 40 years, and the income gap began to narrow. And now those same workers who are the most harmed by the Democrats' policy.
At the end there, he's making the same charge that these policies by Democrats are causing the harm to American workers, which has never been true and isn't true now. Basically, the problem with the American workforce and the way that work works in the United States is the employers are taking advantage of workers. Plain and simple, we've made it very hard for employees to advocate for themselves, made it hard for employees to unionize, and there's all kinds of ways that we can make it better for workers. And just attacking immigrants isn't the way to do it. And you notice that more immigrants come to this country from non-Latin American countries than come from Latin American countries. But a lot of those countries are European. So I wonder why he's not as concerned about European immigrants, but he is as concerned about Latin American immigrants. That is something for you to take back to your conversations with the people that you know and love. Hopefully you got a little bit more insight and more information about this speech. If you did, please like the video below. And in the comments, tell me what you think is the #1 thing we could do as a country to help workers in general get the recognition and the pay and their needs met the most. What's the fastest way to get there? I look forward to reading those comments. Until I see you around the internet, you have a great night. Bye.